The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, The Right Side. Breaking news up in Minnesota, ladies and gentlemen. And it is chaos as usual up there. Corporate media already trying to gaslight us. Earlier today, as we all know, unfortunately, a United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in South Minneapolis during a federal immigration enforcement operation. Federal officials, including the Department of Homeland Security, are claiming that ICE officer acted in self-defense, saying that the woman tried to run over officers with her vehicle. Now, local video footage, you've all seen the video, at least many of you have, most of you have, and eyewitnesses accounts tell a story. And Mayor Jacob Fry and Governor Skippy Tampon Tim Walz have condemned the shooting and the presence of our federal agents in their city. So let's talk about this straight. America first, conservative, truthful discussion. Without liberal media spin, without, appeasing radicals, and without letting corrupt politicians rewrite what's happening on the ground in real time. Number one, the point that I want to make, I'll make several. This is the first. ICE agents are federal law enforcement officers, and they go where they are ordered. ICE agents are sworn to protect the safety of Americans and enforce immigration law, lawfully and under great personal risk. I mean, these are patriots who put their lives on the line every day, ladies and gentlemen, to defend our communities from real threats. And yet they are routinely vilified by political hacks who would rather score cheap headlines than secure our borders and our people. And the radical liberal communist-socialist, formerly known as Democrat, movement in this country, of which Tim Walz is a part, is a radically anti-American organization. And they will do everything to spin things out of control so that their favorite event begins to happen. Chaos. Today's shooting happened in the context of an ongoing federal operation, and the Department of Homeland Security describes it as one of the largest enforcement actions in Minnesota's history. It's federal authority acting. It is not a rogue event. Yet some in Minneapolis and in the governor's mansion especially want to treat this as if ICE is the enemy. That's not only intellectually immature, that's anti-American. Let's address what happened and what we know, the facts. The woman who was shot and identified, Renee Nicole Good, 37-year-old woman from Minneapolis. And in all sincerity, our prayers and our wishes for comfort to her mother and her family are lifted tonight. The Department of Homeland Security says the ICE agent shot her because she was attempting to run him over with her vehicle. They have a right to defend themselves, these ICE agents, and you'd better believe that the radical liberal movement in America is filled with people who break the law and cause terrible levels of violence, arson, riots, looting, and anarchy. That's chaos. That is and the reason the liberal movement in America wants chaos is because they think that if we're subjected to it long enough, we'll begin to think that we need the federal government, Big Brother, to rush in and help them. We're not going to let that happen. The third point that I want to make is where political leadership comes in and where it fails. We see this happen in many cases when these kinds of accidents happen, these kinds of events. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? Because that elephant's name is Governor Tim Walz. This is the same governor who stood back while Minneapolis burned to the ground during George Floyd riots, refusing to deploy the National Guard to end it swiftly, allowing chaos, arson, lawlessness, anarchy to take hold. His wife would later say she would enjoy opening the windows in the morning and smell the tires burning in the distance. She really said that. No other governor in the entire country let that kind of chaos happen. I guess if you look at Washington State and Oregon, you can make cases for certain pockets of their cities to allow it to happen too. But the common thread, obviously, folks, the Democrat communist socialist leadership in these blue states is the reason for this. And people remember these things. They remember the business owners, the families, the citizens that are left undefended because of defunding the police initiatives. Today, Walz has instantly sided with the protesters and the pundits who want to turn this very tragic and complex event into a political cudgel against the federal government. Even before the facts are fully established, he's out there taking the sides of the protesters, saying, go, protest, do it. Then he throws in, of course, now do this safely, stay off bridges and roadways, but otherwise make sure, and he didn't say this, but you better believe they're planning on it, make sure that we have plenty of pallets of rocks, bricks, and stones delivered to street corners in downtown Minneapolis so that we can do what we did last time, throw them through storefront windows. If you don't think that that decision at the exact moment when ICE agents' life and career are on the line to back a protester movement instead of backing law enforcement matters, that will be perceived by the federal police officers, the local police officers, those officers who have intellectual maturity, as a hostile political message. If you don't see that, folks, you're not paying attention. In Minnesota, you have a governor who invites chaos, not peace. The fourth point I want to make, the radical liberal playbook is always the same, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen it before a dozen times in the last several years. Defund law enforcement, let cities descend into anarchy, then point fingers to the very people who are trying to restore order. It's the same playbook. It is maddening. It happened in Portland. It happened in Seattle. It happened in Minneapolis in 2020. And now the same group of radicals want to use a federal law enforcement action to justify more chaos, arson, looting, rioting, and anarchy. Notice how quickly, ladies and gentlemen, the commune socialists, formerly known as Democrats, how they swing into action. ICE needs to get out of here. The federal government is reckless. If you weren't here, this would have never happened. We've got to protect our community. They don't say, we're going to wait for the investigation to complete. Or, ladies and gentlemen, we understand you're emotional right now. But we have to respect the rule of law. They don't say, we've got to support our agents with facts. We've got to gather those facts together. No. It's just blame and burn. This is the radical liberal commune socialist, formerly known as Democrat, playbook. It's not leadership. It is arson in a suit. Point number 5 I'd like to make, ladies and gentlemen. America has got to stand with law enforcement, not with anarchy. And I'm going to say it clearly. Support for ICE and for all law enforcement does not mean condoning wrongdoing if it occurred. It does mean that we safeguard the rule of law. It does mean that we protect the men and women who enforce our immigration statutes and protect American lives. And it does not mean that we allow corruption and corrupt politicians to use strategy as cudgel for chaos. Point number 6, please, real quickly. What should happen next? Here's what a responsible government response should be. A full and transparent investigation by federal and state authorities, not political posturing. Number 2, respect for due process for federal agents acting under justified threat. And then a refusal to let the mob dictate policy or criminalize patriotic enforcement. Finally, then, a commitment to secure that the borders, the city, and enforce the law, not to apologize for all of that. This is not a story about random violence, ladies and gentlemen. This is a story about law enforcement fulfilling a responsibility in a dangerous situation and political leaders trying to weaponize that moment for their own benefit. So ask yourself this. Do you want leadership that protects citizens and law enforcement, or do you want leadership that sacrifices safety for a headline? Minnesota deserves better. We all deserve better. Ladies and gentlemen, subscribe to my YouTube channel, please, where you can get content just like this on a regular basis. It's free. Subscribe to YouTube channel over there at The Right Side, Doug Billings. And follow me on X and Truth Social at Doug Billings. Instagram, Facebook, find me, TikTok, all of it. We're in this together, ladies and gentlemen. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the set of my show, Doug Billings. Hey, my good friends at EMP Shield, that's electromagnetic pulse, in case you're from Raytown, Missouri. Electromagnetic pulse could wipe out your home electrical system, could wipe out your vehicle. And thanks to the radical liberal agenda that was put forth under Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, there are lots of people in this country who want to do us harm. And maybe an EMP device would be their chosen weapon. But EMP Shield gives you a device that can protect you. This little baby here goes on your home outlets, a computer, a router, whatever you want to protect. And then they also have a larger model like this. You can still hold it in the palm of your hand that goes on your vehicle battery so that you can get out of trouble from point A to point B. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug, ladies and gentlemen. Save yourself. Save your property. EMPshield.com. Promo code Doug. We're in this together, folks. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.